All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Yankee Content Central. If you are not subscribed yet, please be sure to subscribe either here on X or on YouTube. The link is in the description. So a couple of things have happened, and something else just happened that I will be sure to bring up on the screen um, when we get to the portion of the episode that will cover this. But this is kind of relevance, and I do want to bring it up. So, a couple things have happened since we last spoke. The Yankees have added some depth moves. They've added some other, moves around the field. Um, they added Tim Hill, and Brian Cashman just spoke on Yankees hot stove. So I'm gonna get into all that in a minute, and yeah, so we'll start with Carrasco. So Carrasco, who has been in the major leagues for a super long time, has signed a deal with the Yankees, a minors deal. This is pitching depth, and Brian Cashman explained this move on Hot Stove. And he said the same thing as what I'm about to say. This is a depth move. This is, instead of having Will Warren come up and do the spot start, they'd rather have Will Warren, either he's a trade piece, or Will Warren, they want him to, and I hope they do, give him time to develop. There's a talent there with him. I know I'm going to get pushback because of what we saw. There is a talent with Will Warren. There definitely is. What we saw was him come up at random times, not knowing when he's starting games, not knowing really anything, and we got the results we got. So this season, the Yankee organization's like, okay, what can we take to prepare? All right, well, we have a Marcus Stroman, and Cashman talked about Stroman. You can never have too much pitching depth. And, talking up Stroman, he's still a really good starting pitcher. If you look at the numbers, the home and away splits, he's like looking down. I don't know if he had them or he's just pretending. Brian Cashman was 100% right. And I'm not a Cashman shill at all. I don't want to sit here and, say Brian Cashman's the greatest gift since, sliced bread. I'm not the biggest Brian Cashman supporter, not the biggest Brian Cashman fan. What I will say, and this is going to go more in depth as the episode goes on, everything Brian Cashman had to say tonight on Hot Stove, I loved for the most part. And he really, I think, gave us a good scope of what we're looking into. So in terms of Carrasco, this is just a minor league depth move. He'll get starts down there. If someone gets hurt, he's up. He's one that you should see, 5 to 6 times this year. He's not. If we see him more than that, we got problems. The biggest breaking news out of Yankees this week is that, according to Jeff Passan of ESPN, reliever Tim Hill and the New York Yankees are in an agreement on a 1-year, $2.85 million deal with a club option for the 2026 season. And this is fantastic. So early reports indicated that Hill had wanted 8 years. I mean, not 8 years. Oh my God. Hill had wanted 3 years, and no team was willing to give it to him. And, we had to wait for it to come down. There was an understanding between the two sides all offseason that a reunion was most likely, and the reunion obviously happened. So with adding Tim Hill, this is what the current bullpen scape looks like. Obviously, we have Williams as the closer. We have Weaver as like the second closer, but he's slotted as setup. Fernando Cruz, I'm excited to see what he does in spring. Loizaga, I'm going to talk more about him in a minute. Ian Hamilton, Jake Cousins, Mark Leiter Jr., and Tim Hill slots right in there. This is as the scope of being a very good bullpen. And then this is something I tweeted out as well. After the Yankees signed Tim Hill, there's a current lack of here's the current look of the Yankees bullpen. It does not include Scott Efros, Andreas Gomez, Clayton Beeter, Carlos Carrasco, aforementioned. Will Warren, Yeri De Los Santos, JT Brubaker, Michael Arias, Rosny Contreras, Alan Wienis, who I think was just DFA'd. And no, Jonathan Loizaga will begin the season on the injured list, targeting a May return. So that's the note about Loizaga. This is a really, I'm going to pull it back up, good bullpen. It's a really good bullpen because now, and Brian Cashman actually alluded to this in his little conversation with the S Network, where he's like, while we built a good bullpen last year, it wasn't my best work. We were definitely lacking some things in the bullpen, and it was obvious. And I was kind of like, that took some guts to admit that you were wrong. And, we all know that, the bullpen the Yankees started the year with that had Caleb Ferguson, Victor Gonzalez, and some other ancillary pieces was not the bullpen that we finished the year with. We found Cousins and Hill in the summer and, found gold in them. Luke Weaver was supposed to be a mop-up guy in the middle innings, and he was closing games. Ian Hamilton was on the IL all the time. Tommy Kahnle was on the injured list and came off. And as the season progressed, the bullpen was better. And then obviously, like every year, it hits a skid in August. That's with every team every year. That could also be due to, starting pitchers not going deep in games. He kind of mentioned that when he talked about Stroman. And I'm going to talk about Stroman now. Marcus Stroman, and there's more, but I'm not going to put that up. Marcus Stroman is interesting to me. He was talking about Stroman, talking him up. And I mentioned this a little bit before. I'm going to go more in depth. The home and away splits for Stroman are there. He also mentioned, and there is data backing this, and I was actually kind of happy to hear that Brian Cashman said this and noted well, we have data that says the Yankee defense did not do him favors. There were innings where he had to get 4 or 5 outs instead of the normal 3, and he ended up exploding in those innings. And I'm like, yeah, this is true. That's not an excuse, and I want to make that very clear. It's not an excuse for anything Marcus Stroman's done. So I'm going to do splits, home and away. He was 5-7 at home with a 5.31 ERA. On the road, he was a 5-2 with a 3.09 ERA. He started less games on the road. He pitched in less games on the road, started less games on the road as well. He did rack up a save on the road. He pitched 70 innings on the road to that tune of the 3.09 ERA, and he pitched. Wait, where did that go? And he pitched 84.2 and 2/3 innings at home. Gave up less hits, less. Oh my God, he gave up more than half of his runs were given up at Yankee Stadium. He gave up 50 runs at Yankee Stadium. He only gave up 24 on the road. Only gave up 4 home runs on the road. And he gave up 15 at the stadium. He did walk more on the road by 2. His batting average was actually exactly the same between the two. He struck out more at home, but less on the road. That is very interesting. And you can find this data via the MLB site. I just went on the MLB app, clicked on roster, clicked on Marcus Stroman's name. The data is right there if you click on splits. That's eye-opening. I didn't realize it was that bad. And the defense didn't do him favors. So from Brian Cashman's perspective in saying that, and Michael Kay kind of came right out and asked it when Bob Lorenz talked around it and got more of an answer than Michael Kay did when he came right out and asked it. With that being said, they did get an answer. What's happening is sorry, I was saying something. What happened is Marcus Stroman is that guy where it's like, okay, in spring, and Cashman kind of alluded to this, the injury bug happens, and then all of a sudden you need a starting pitcher. So he kind of alluded to that. He can't say I'm trading this player, I'm openly shopping this player. He can't say that. We know he can't say that. But what he did say, I thought was very indicative that he is trying aggressively to get a deal done. So yesterday the Yankees released their non-roster invites to spring training. Here's the full list. Um, there's more of a list. This full list in Zoom is on my X account. So if you go follow me on X, it's right there. Of note is Colton Brewer in the pitching. Obviously Carlos Carrasco, Alex Jackson in the catching, and then like Duke Ellis will be of note. Obviously Spencer Jones, just to see what he does, and on the infield, George Lombard Jr. more specifically because he was mentioned. There are other candidates on the 40-man roster that are automatically invited to spring training. I think there's a catcher on there. Yes. One catcher I want to watch in spring training is JC Escara. He is slotted into where number 79. But I would like to hold on. Oh, okay. That's nothing. The Astros improved their deal to Bregman. It's still unlikely they get a deal done, but that just came through per a source. JC Escara is a name to watch in spring training for a backup catcher. They keep mentioning Alex Jackson as well, who they got back in the return for Trevino. Obviously, they still have Ben Rice, who hasn't really been mentioned, which tells me something's up. All right, so this is based on RotoChamp. This is the projected lineup and record for the Yankees. So this is a little look into a graphic that I'm trying to create for each team, and I'm going to put division by division on my Instagram account between the bases. So if you follow between the bases on Instagram, you will see all the projected lineups by division. I'll obviously put the post that has the AL East. I'll collaborate it with the Yankee Content Central one, so the Yankee one is on there. And I'll share specifically the Yankee one to my story. They have it weird, and I don't think this is what it's really going to look like. I think the players is close, but I don't think this will be the lineup structure. But I'm going off of what the site said. This isn't me. This isn't my influence. The site said Volpe, Chisholm, Judge, Goldschmidt, Bellinger, Stanton, Wells, Dominguez, Cabrera. They have Jazz at second. The Yankees are playing Jazz at second. Just to forewarn everyone, the plan is to play Jazz at second, barring any additions of a second baseman. Obviously, they have the flexibility, but Cashman noted that they're trying to keep Jazz at second. When he acquired him, the idea was to put Jazz at second base and put Gleyber Torres at third, but Gleyber Torres was unwilling to cooperate and didn't want to move. I'm like, oh my god. I'm watching this, I'm like, oh. Like, let's not drag Glaber through the mud now. Come on. Dave Rifkin might be known on Twitter. He has a stake in the Yankees, knows a lot of people in the organization. Tweeted this out as I walked down here to get the graphics ready. Watching Cashman, it's clear he's trying to make a trade for third base. Gave no real ringing endorsements. Bubba Crosby talk. This is very true. He was like, we have these guys. We have Vivas. We're not playing Vivas. Come on. His name was never mentioned until today. We have Vivas. We have LeMay. We have Peraza, Cabrera. We have options. Could it be a platoon? Who knows? Could it be a straight side? We never know. We could also wait. He said something along the lines of, we could also see what the market's like. Like he said something along the lines of, we also need to see what the market's like. We could add someone. Bregman's still on the market. Every day, he's still on the market. Do I think the Yankees are going to make a play for Bregman? Not at all. But someone put out I feel like I'm losing my mind. Am I not the only one who thoroughly convinced that the Yankees may not even make the playoffs? And I'm like, what? They're gonna make the playoffs? Come on. Anything can happen, but where there are those teams in the AL that will, yeah. What team in the American League is threatening the Yankees at a playoffs? Now, the World Series is going to be tough. You never know. If they add a third baseman either now or at the deadline, you know, I would like, I actually, and I'll say this, and John Boy put it out, and this is why I'm going to say it more in depth. The honesty, the sheer honesty that Brian Cashman gave tonight, and he obviously said the roster is not complete. Cashman said that. That is Cashman's words. He said that at the beginning. The roster is not complete. We are not pencils down. The bullpen is probably complete. I really like this bullpen, and I'd be totally fine if it's complete. Um, Here's the full quote. When I acquired Jazz to be a second baseman and moved Glaber to third the rest of the last year. Boone wanted to do it the other way. He moved Jazz to third after we got him, and Glaber to second base because Glaber didn't want to move to third. He was unwilling. That's the full quote from Brian Cashman. So I said what were my words before? He was uncooperative. He was unwilling. It's the same lines. But when you hear of a player like Gleyber Torres, and I don't want to sit here and have this be dismantle Gleyber Torres Day because he's gone. He still did a hell of a lot for this organization and for this team and his time here. But that is telling. When your team is making a run at a World Series and you need to make a move around the infield that would better your team, and you don't, then that's indicative of things. And I'm trying to get the full quote here. Okay. We could move Jazz. He could play second base or third base. The others have to battle for a spot, and if not, we will look on the marketplace. Now people are projecting like Renhefo and stuff like that. I don't want to get too like headstrong here with stuff because I don't like to. I don't want to be like, here's super projections, here's what's going on here. What I will say is, Rifkin then replied to a post saying, someone goes, I don't think it's Nolan or Arise, though. I have zero clue who the guy is. And I guess those are the names that are being talked about. Willie Castro, who I think makes a lot of sense, a switch hitter. He makes a lot of sense if you need someone to impact you now. Willie Castro's very good, and I would like that move. I would like a second switch hitter. I like switch hitters a lot. The reason I like having switch hitters, and obviously Jason is in the lineup as a switch hitter who switched his number to 24, by the way, which I love. I wish it was 22, but 24, gotta respect it. But my thing with that is, my big thing with this is, Willie Castro being a switch hitter can slot in the middle to the lower end of the lineup. If they're going to bat Jason lead off, then you bat Castro like eighth, Volpe seventh, Castro eighth, Wells ninth. The reason I say Volpe seventh is because based on his career OPS, he has been the best hitter in the 7-hole and the best hitter with first and third. When it's the first and third situation, he locks in. And when he hits in the 7-hole, his OPS is very high. So I would like them to use Volpe in the 7-hole going forward. And Willie Castro, the addition of him could do that. I don't think Castro could lead off. I don't know enough of his numbers to say if he can lead off. I don't know if he's led off in his career. Nico Horner definitely can. Nico Horner is a guy that I like. I've always liked him. I think that they were trying to get him when they were trading for Bellinger, and the reason they didn't and the reason that didn't happen was because that was the holdup with the money, where they kept saying, the money, the money, the money. They kept saying that, And I think part of it was that they were trying to acquire Horner and didn't. The other thing with Nico Horner is his availability is based on Alex Bregman. If Alex Bregman takes a deal with the Chicago Cubs, then the Cubs are going to have to deal someone away and take back, things. That could also be why they were talking up Marcus Stroman. Not going to lie, I could totally see them moving Clark Schmidt. I don't have any sources on that. I just when I look at the market, when I look at the scope of things, when I look at what Chicago needs in return, I could see. I don't think they'll be willing to take Marcus Stroman, but I think maybe Clark Schmidt, maybe someone else, maybe a Clark Schmidt and a Will Warren. That'd be a lot of pitching depth you're giving up to not even give up Marcus Stroman. But then Stroman can start. And then you're not losing pitching depth because then Stroman's just your fifth starter. He's slotting in right where Clark was. And, if Marcus Stroman is in a better defensive situation, he might be a better fifth starter than he was as a third starter last year. If you look at the starting rotation last year, it was, he was the third. It was Cole, then it was Rodon, then it was Cole, Rodon, Stroman, then Schmidt, Heel, Nestor, not mix, because to start the season it was Nestor, Rodon, Stroman, Clark, Heel. And then when Cole came back, Schmidt was out. And then they bumped Nestor down. So having Stroman as your 4 or your 5 in this scenario is not a bad idea. The only thing is the Yankees would just have to limit his innings. And the way you do that is, skip a start here and there. You know what? That's a game where you have Cookie come up and start. That's a game where, Will Warren, you can get the start today. We'll give you a start, especially towards the end of the year. Or injuries happen. I don't want to wish bad on Stroman, but, he's an older pitcher now. So this is where we're standing. This is it. The team is unfinished. Brian Cashman said the team is unfinished. So now we wait. Pitchers and catchers report in less than a week. The first spring training game is 15 days from today. And as soon as that hits, we could, who knows, we can get a trade tonight. You never know with the way the market's moving. But one of the challenges moving Stroman is the amount of starting pitchers still on the market. So for right now, this team looks good, knowing that they're not done and that they're most likely trying to add someone else, but are saying we have these guys as more of an insurance policy in case they can't get a deal done. I like it. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you so much and have a great day. Let's go Yankees.